What's going on, guys? My name is Josh and this is a brand new episode of Josh Talks Tech. On today's episode, we're going to dive into a little bit of enterprise tech. We are talking Azure VMware Solutions, also known as AVS. Let's get right into it. So it has been quite a while since my last video. If my memory serves me right, it's probably been over 2 years. That was December or January, just before I started at Microsoft in 2021. And it is now February of 23. So this is a little bit overdue. That said, I sincerely apologize for the very abrupt halt in production, but at the same time, there are plenty of people that are going to be seeing my face in these videos for the very first time, and it is a pleasure to meet you. Thanks for tuning in. That said, today's episode is not an ad, it's not sponsored by Microsoft, although we are talking about Azure VMware Solutions. I have to say that I am an employee of Microsoft. I just wanted to talk about this because frankly, I like the tech and I think it just makes a lot of sense. It's very practical. Now, before I can start talking about AVS, I have to provide some context on two other pieces. That is, what is a data center and what is virtualization? And then we'll talk about AVS. Without any further ado, let's get right into it. And we're going to start this off with something very simple. What is a data center? It's very easy to treat the internet like any other utility: water, electricity, gas, etc. You don't know all the ins and outs of what's going on behind the scenes. You just know that when you flip a light switch in your house, the lights turn on. In the same exact way, it's almost impossible to think about all the things that happen in the background of some of your favorite apps. All of the captions, comments, photos, stories, videos, etc. All of that stuff passes through servers, firewalls, routers, storage arrays, fiber, the list goes on, and all of that lives in a data center. You've probably heard people use the term data center at some point. You may have even seen a data center in a movie or a TV show. But if you've never seen one, just imagine a giant warehouse filled floor to ceiling with blinking lights. Those blinking lights are your firewalls, your servers, your routers, etc. Now, there are plenty of different flavors of what a data center is. This could be a small room or closet in an office building or a restaurant. It could be a co-location facility, or it can be an enormous corporate-owned data center with multiple megawatts of power. Either way, a data center holds all the gear that makes all of the things that you love on your phone work. Cool? Cool. Now this brings us into the second part of our video, which is, what is virtualization? Now inside of a data center, you have a lot of different pieces of equipment, and one of those things is called a server. Think of this as a more powerful version of your laptop or personal computer at home. Back in the day, there used to be a one-to-one relationship between an application and the server, meaning that a company would have to go buy a server for every single app that they would use to run their business. If you're a small business, this might not seem like a big deal, but if you're a mid-market or enterprise business, this can add up pretty quickly. Fast forward to the early 2000s, and we begin to see the widespread adoption of technologies called hypervisors. Now, I'm not going to get into all of the vernacular here because we'll be here for a very long time. To keep it simple, I'm just going to refer to a company known as VMware. VMware is one of the market leaders in virtualization and is used by thousands of businesses around the world. And the thesis around this is really simple. Rather than having a server limited to just one application, what if you could use one server to accommodate multiple apps? This is exactly what companies like VMware enable businesses to do. Virtualization allows you to take a server and virtually split those resources so you can do more with less. Fast forward to 2006, and you have the birth of the first hyperscaler, Amazon Web Services, better known as AWS. Fast forward a few more years, and now you have the big three: AWS, GCP, Google, and Azure, Microsoft. And while virtualization solves a huge problem for businesses that are trying to be more efficient in their data centers, cloud providers create a whole new solution, which is basically, why own a data center at all? You can just use our services instead. Virtual networks, virtual firewalls, virtual servers, and a wide range of other incredible cloud native services. Now, while this all sounds incredible and amazing, which it is, The big question is, how do I get all of the apps that I'm running in my data center from my data center into the cloud? Some of you might be familiar with moving a file from, let's say, your laptop to a personal hard drive. This is nothing like that at all. There is a lot of work that goes into moving an application from what might be considered legacy infrastructure to run in a cloud-native environment. I know any IT administrator or architect that watches this wishes that they could just drag and drop, but alas, it's not that simple. What if, however, you could just take your workloads as they are, assuming they're running on VMware, and extend them or move them completely to another VMware environment outside of your data center. Now, this is a perfect segue into part 3 of this video, which is Azure VMware Solutions. You can probably guess where I'm going with this. Azure VMware Solutions, or AVS for short, is a dedicated private cloud running in a Microsoft Azure data center that comes bundled with all of the VMware licensing, compute, and storage that you need to run your workloads. Now, if you're in tech, you might hear this and say, big whoop, that's just another flavor of infrastructure as a service. I would argue, though, that there are a few points that make AVS, frankly, just better. First, you can use all the VMware tooling that you're already used to extend or move your workloads. If you're a VMware admin, you're probably familiar with Site Recovery Manager or even HCX. You can use a lot of the tooling you're already accustomed to facilitate your migration. Point number 1. Point number 2, since your workloads now live in an Azure data center, you can begin accessing cloud-native services that you otherwise would not have access to if they stayed in your data center or in a co-location facility. Point number 3, and arguably point number 3 is the best, especially for companies that are looking for a simple alternative to disaster recovery or just looking to extend your data centers, meaning that you have workloads running in multiple data centers, is that you can use your current hypervisor to continue managing workloads the same exact way that you do today. Operationally, this is a huge deal. Now, yes, there's a lot more to it, and because of that, I have put a lot of resources in the comments section below. If you have any questions at all, drop them in the comments, shoot me a note on LinkedIn. More than happy to connect. Quick recap. A data center is a big building with blinking lights that holds all the data. Virtualization allows you to chop up a server and do more with less. And Azure VMware Solutions is the perfect alternative to continuing to build out data centers, whether that's for disaster recovery or just data center exit altogether. That's a wrap for today's episode. If you made it this far, please smash that like button, smash the subscribe button, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.